see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows in my mind. When I think of you sometime, and I want to spend some time with you, just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? I am Darrick McGhee.
I'm Tikia McGhee.
And welcome to the first episode of our new podcast, Just the Two of Us, where we talk about our life story, about marriage, about being parents of two amazing children, and just have fun, give you guys a little bit of insight of our friendship and our relationship. So I'm excited.
I'm excited as well.
Amen. This is new for her. She normally wouldn't do something like this, but I'm grateful. God gave a vision and she's agreeable to it. And so for our opening session, our first show, we want to just talk about our story, how we met and how we became who we are. And so this month will be 25 years we've been together. And we've been married for 22 years. I have two amazing children, a 19-year-old son, a 14-year-old daughter. So we have a freshman in college, freshman in high school. Before we talk about all that, let's go back to the beginning, how we first met. You remember how we first met?
Yeah, there will be my story, your story, and then the truth.
Oh, here we go. Okay. So give your story.
My story is, I can remember at our previous church, I remember driving by, seeing you on a bus stop, and I remember going to pick my sister up, and I was like, hey, that guy, you know that guy that got up, stood in front of the church and started crying? He said on a bus stop, but I didn't feel right asking if he wanted to ride. So she was like, okay, well, let's just go back and see if he needs to ride. So he was gone. The bus had picked him up. I guess it wasn't our time to meet then. Then Mr. Whitfield, your godfather, was having a program at the church.
Yep.
And I can remember you coming up to me and saying, hey, and I'm like, hey, first of all, the first no was he was a minister, right? Like, I'm like, I don't want to date a minister. I'm in college. I don't want to spend my life in church for every church service every day. So it was kind of curt and rude how I handled you. I will admit that part.
Keep talking about it.
I will admit that part. I eventually gave you my number.
No. Go back to how curt and rude you were, though.
Like I didn't want to be bothered. Yeah, because you were a minister. Like I didn't.
She was so rude.
I didn't want to date a minister. You don't understand.
I said, "How are you doing? Why you want to know?" Wow. Okay. Oh, it was on the church grounds too.
He was very persistent. That was key.
Okay.
That was the key to the whole relationship. You were very persistent. So I ended up giving him my mom's. This is back in the day where there was a main line and a kids line. Yes, I was in college because I still lived at home. I had the kids line, but what I did was I gave him my mom's number. So if you call, you're not gonna get me. You're gonna get her answering the phone. But then the other story was that was later on. The first story was we were planning for a collegiate ministry at our previous church. And I am the quiet sister. I'm the sister that don't say much. I'm the sister that sits in the background. And I saw him in the meeting. He saw me in the meeting. And he saw another young man. He thought I gave him my phone number. So his game was, so you just gonna give me your phone number? Like, sir, first of all, why are you watching me? First of all. Second of all, I did not give him my number. He is younger than me. Instead of being mean and rude, I said, let me get your number. To this day, I never called that number.
Hold on. Let me just insert. She said to be mean and rude. She gave, but with me, she was very mean and very rude.
Because you were a minister.
Okay, go ahead. Carrie, I'm going to point that out.
And I think he said something slick like, you need a real man in your life. Sir, you're in college. You're both in college. Like, what do you know about being a real man? Okay, so my guard was up, and I think the first part of the story was when I actually gave you my phone number, because my sister and my brother from another mother was having a birthday party.
Shout out to Roger Walker and Shrita
Yes.
Jackson.
They arranged where he would ride with me to pick up the cake for Roger's party and go to Red Lobster on North Monroe.
Yep.
And I allowed him to ride with me. Like I was saved, but you know, I still like listen to my jagged edge. So I think I put my jagged edge in, and I didn't say 2 words the whole ride at all. I didn't utter a word.
Nothing.
I'm sure it was awkward.
Very awkward.
But for me, I'm an introvert, so it was fine to me.
It was the rudest I've ever been treated.
Oh,
yeah.
But you stayed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about, I've never been in a car with somebody and not speak at all, not one word. I was having a whole conversation. How was your day? Nothing.
No.
What are you majoring in?
You're
Nothing.
a minister.
What does that mean?
I did not want to be in church all my life.
Yeah, but you had to not speak. Like you could have said, "Hey, you're a minister. I'm not interested." She didn't say that. She just we got back to the restaurant. I pulled Shrita aside. I'm like, "Hey, man, what's up with your sister?" She's like, "Well," I'm like, "She didn't say anything." She's like, "What do you mean?" She didn't say one word the entire conversation. Like I was basically talking to myself. There were several awkward pauses.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I don't even know how you got home that evening.
I don't know either. I don't remember how I got there, honestly, but I probably rolled with someone.
I feel like we had something at the church, and you got in the car with me from the church. And I was told, like, hey, Darrick is going to ride with you to get the cake. Like, why is he
See
riding?
his facial expression? That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. And I don't even know him. Why are y'all putting me in the car with him? No, I'm an introvert. I don't make friends easy. Why are you talking? Why are you going to ride with me? Why are you talking to me?
So let me get my part of the story. So rewind back. I was way more favorable to meeting women in college than she was favorable to meeting men in college.
Oh.
I came from Los Angeles to this historically black college in Tallahassee. Ratio was like 8-1 women to men. And so I was eager to meet all 8 of mine. I was not promiscuous like that, but I also wasn't.
Clean it up.
I wasn't sheltered from meeting people, right? I stayed in Pattyfoot. So, you know, I was engaged in college. She stayed home all 4 years.
I did.
So.
Until we got married, actually.
Until we got married, correct. So she was getting her master's when we finally started living together. But.
No, when we were married. We didn't live together.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that part in another episode, but that part's important too. And so, you know, I wasn't promiscuous, but I also was open to dating and things of that nature. So I dated a few young ladies in college, and it was clear there was no future. My mom I talked to my mom, she was like, she would say stuff like, the girl you dating, yeah, that ain't gonna work out. She's never even met the young ladies. She was like, it ain't gonna work out. Or she'd be like, your Lord told me in prayer that you're wasting your time. Stuff like that. And I'd be like, wow. And so I made up in my mind, I'm going to go on a 1-year dating sabbatical. I'm not going to date anybody, mess with any females for an entire 12 months. And it sounds crazy, but I believe that's what God was telling me to do. So I did it. And I started going out to eat by myself. I remember going to see a movie by myself. I had never done any of this stuff. And it is, people treat you almost weird when you're at a restaurant by yourself. They kind of stare at you. And I was just enjoying it. And I learned in that process the difference between loving yourself and liking yourself. And so I was very committed to doing this. But I also did it because I believed when I came out that God would prepare me in that 12 months to meet my wife. I was at that point where I was just tired of this being in our relationships. And so I was believing God for that. And the 12 months had expired. And I was very focused on, I'm not going to date anybody unless it's going to be my wife. It was a Sunday night. My godmother, shout out to my godmom, Judy Smith. She called me and she was like, God, son, I've been in prayer and the Lord told me to tell you your wife is right in front of you, but you keep ignoring her. And I was like, okay. Now, I never told her anybody about the dating sabbatical, but that was very plain. That's verbatim what she said. And that was the end of our conversation. The next night was a Monday. We were having a pre-collegiate anniversary meeting at Tabernacle. And I was helping coordinate the meeting. And Tikia was sitting in the corner. She had on this white top, these light blue jeans, and some white Reebok. I remember like yesterday. And I remember like at one point, I locked in on her. It's almost like in the movies where like everybody fades away and it's just the two of you in the room.
You got it, girl.
I was locked in.
Yes.
I was locked in, and so I remember us getting through the meeting, and so the part she mentioned, my young man walked up to her. At the time, he was like the collegiate drummer, and I remember watching him walk up to her, and part of me was like, okay, I'm not gonna throw salt in this game, but I'm also gonna make sure he don't succeed. And I kind of just waited till they finished their conversation. I walked right up on her. Now, if you know my nature, I don't do well with rejection. So me walking up on her was a boldness I didn't know I had. I just walked up on her. I was like, so you're gonna waste your time with this young dude? You need a real man in your life. And she kind of gave me that normal side eye stare, like, what are you doing? I knew nothing about the anti-minister stuff. I was just locked in. But I knew in that moment that was her. Now, let me pause and then go backwards. I had seen Tikia before in church. So Sharita and I, her sister and I, we're very, very close. We've been close for years before I started pastoring. Before I really got heavily into ministry, I did not know they were sisters. They were never together. Never saw them associated with each other. But I saw Tikia one day in church, and I was like, man, she's really pretty. But there was this little boy sitting in her lap. And I'm like, she's really pretty, man, but she's too fast for me. That was actually my thought. Like, I ain't ready for nobody kids. Well, so I just kind of looked at her, and I kind of just zoned off in that regard. I find out later the little boy in her lap was her brother, right? And so that was interesting by itself because this was probably 2 years before, something like that. And so we come back to that night. So I woke up on that Monday, and I'm like, you need a real man in your life. And she was like, what you talking about? And I was like, well, can I get your phone number? And I was like, I wasn't like holding her hostage. But at the same point, as she was moving, I was moving. Like, I was not about to let her lead a church without me getting that phone number. And I can't remember what happened that night to give me a number or not.
I don't think I did.
I don't think she did either, but I was like locked in. And so I remember saying something, somebody mentioned her and Sharita being sisters, something. I observed something or whatever. And so I went to Sharita, I'm like, hey, listen.
So you was stalking me.
I was like, hey, listen, is that your sister? And she was like, yeah. I'm like, listen, I need you to help me with her. Like, I believe God and his word is true. Like, and so Sharita, I love you, sis. Sharita was like, from day one, she was committed to helping out. Yeah. She was like, okay. And so I literally just started slowly but surely. My main goal was to try to show her I'm a good dude. Nothing about her backstory. I'm a good dude. That's all I was trying to do. And when I tell you, she had no interest. I'm talking about, I did everything, right? And there was no interest. I woke up with a Bible on my arm. I was telling her how beautiful nothing. She never budged at all. When I finally got her phone number, like she said, it was her mother's line in a 2-line household. And I called it one night. Her mama was like, hello. I'm like, hi, can I speak to Tikia? And she was like, who is that? I said, this is Darrick. I don't think she was home that night. So I called back later on. Her mama finally said, young man, listen, stop calling my phone line. And her mother was the one who gave me her line. And I finally called her. I'm like, hey, listen, like, your mom gave me your number. I think she was kind of upset. And I'm like, I just want to get to know you better. Like, I'm genuinely trying to be a gentleman. I was raised to be a gentleman. Dude, she's making this very, very hard. Like, it shouldn't be this way. But what I held on to is my God mom saying, the Lord told me your wife is right in front of you. Keep ignoring her. So I was like locked in.
Thank you, God mama, for that word.
Well, looking back, I probably was like borderline stalker.
Basically.
But I was locked in. And so we were still in college. So when I say we're college sweethearts, like we were in college. And I was way more serious about marriage than you were. Like, she was not even thinking about. I didn't walk up like, you gonna be my wife, but I knew in my mind you were my wife.
And I think if you would have walked up to me and said that, you would have freaked me out. And I was like, I'm done. Like, dude, I don't even know you.
So it progressed from there. We started having conversations. It's those conversations like, it's late in the evening. You both.
It's that young love where
Yeah.
you're on the phone, like you listen to each other breathe. You fall asleep, like, oh my God, I just fell asleep on him.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, it was that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Life stories, listening what's going on. And it kind of just grew from there. But I would commend us that we started out as just friends.
Yep.
Right? We genuinely wanted what's best. So what's awkward was the first time I saw her on campus after we, I guess, established a relationship. It was like really weird because she was with 2 of her classmates. And
you were standing on the bus.
I was standing at the bus stop.
And I came down. It was when admissions was in Foothill.
Yep.
We were in Ware Rainey because we were healthcare management majors. And I came down the hill and you're standing on a bus stop. And I'm like, I'm looking like you want to get in, and you like, no, just keep
You
going.
keep going. You in the car with your friends. I'm good. I'm good. So let me tell y'all what's funny though. So we were talking, whatever. And then one night she was like, so what are we?
Oh my God.
I said, what you mean?
Here we
Say,
go.
she said, I said, what you want us to be? She was like, boyfriend and girlfriend. And she was like, I need somebody to take me from this life of
Oh
pain.
my
And
God. I told you there would be my side, his side, and the truth.
you did say, what are we? I said, what do you want to be?
I
She's
did
like, boyfriend
say
and girlfriend.
and I did say that,
And
right?
and I was
but
like,
I didn't say free me from this life of pain, because my life was not pain. Okay.
and so it was that night we established our relationship. Now, which was interesting. I didn't have anything to offer Tikia, right? I was a broke college student with just a lot of goals, a lot of dreams, a lot of passion, a lot of belief, and a lot of faith. I didn't have anything else. I didn't have a car. I was living in a very bad neighborhood. I didn't have anything to offer her. So I just kind of made her two major commitments. Remember what they were?
That you would never cheat on me, and that if I stay with you, it'll be worth my while.
Yeah, so it'd be a great return on her investment.
Yeah.
And that's all I could offer her, right? I didn't have anything else to offer her. And she bought into it.
I did.
And we started building from there. And, we look back on it. So when you saw the intro, right? Those are pictures in our intro. One of them is me sitting in the car, her standing outside the car, right? That's very, very early in our relationship.
You was talking trash.
Right.
Then.
Was talking trash back then. And, you see her stance and her hand up, right? Because, but like those pictures are a progression of everything. And so I have a question for you. Thinking about that.
Oh.
So we think about the story we just shared, which is our true story and how things were. We're still in college, dreams and aspirations. Tikia is born and raised in Tallahassee. I'm born in Peoria, was raised in Los Angeles, moved to Tallahassee with a FAMU. I never planned on being in Tallahassee beyond college, right? I had a 4-year plan. I was going to go off to law school, go do some major things in my life. Never planned on being here. And then we met, things changed. My question for you is, when you think back on that picture outside the car, me talking smack, right? Or just the early part of our journey, did you ever foresee this?
No, because I think when I was in that point in my life, I've been playing beyond to where we are now. So I didn't see this.
Okay. Did you ever see yourself getting married?
I did.
You had a certain age?
No, I didn't have a certain age.
I wasn't getting married until 30. That was my thing. Mentally, I said, I'm not getting married until I turn 30. I got married on my 25th birthday, right? And so I was 25. You remember how old you were?
23.
Yes. So she was 25. I was 23. Now, those who are laughing, she picked the wedding date. It happened to be my birthday, which I was not upset about.
Okay, so the backstory about the date is...
I don't remember the backstory.
The backstory is he proposed when I graduated from undergrad.
So April 2001.
And I said, I'm getting ready to start grad school. And I said, can you just wait for me to get done in 2 years? And he said, if I have to wait, what did you say? I have to wait.
I'm not sticking around. Something like that.
Something like that. He's not sticking around. So then we go to the calendar. Because you thought I was going to let him get away? No, ma'am. No, sir. So we went to the date and I was like, well, December is like Christmas time. So let's do November. And then we planned for November. Then we were going back and forth. Well, that's around Thanksgiving. So only thing that we could agree upon was the week before, which just so happened to be his birthday.
But the part that she got to remind everybody is so I graduated December of 2000. She graduated undergrad April 2001. I proposed on April 28, 2001. Right. Tikia was a part of an inaugural master's program that began that August. Right. So she says November. It was not November of 01. It was November of 02, which was a year and a half later. Right. Like she was trying to drag the engagement out. And if I had allowed her, she didn't graduate her master's until 03. She wanted to wait to after 03 to get married, and I was like, no, we're not going to do that. Like she had all these reasons. Well, I don't want to get pregnant. I want to finish my master's, as if I was going to be a disruption. Right. No. And I'm like, okay, I said, I'm not sticking around for that. Now, what's funny about the engagement that I must share is I knew that she was my wife. I felt comfortable with proposing. My Aunt Mary died on April 7th of 01. We buried her on April 14th. my Aunt Mary had left behind several heirlooms. One was a very beautiful ring that meant a lot to her. And she had kind of given the instruction of, when you get married, give this to your wife, right? She didn't say as a wedding gift. She didn't say as a wedding ring. She just give it to your wife. I took it as a wedding ring. So when I came back from, burying her, I met up with Kia and I'm like, hey, I want to meet with you. I want to give you something. And I was like nervous. And so um, I was going to give it to her as an engagement ring. What messed me up was um, I knew I was ready to propose. And so I called my now beautiful mother-in-law, Clarita Florence. And I'm like, may I meet with you? Said, yeah. So she was assistant director of admissions at FAMU. And we met with her on her lunch break. She was eating a Subway sandwich. Remember, like yesterday. I went and sat down. I think she knew what I was going to ask her for. And I was like beyond nervous. I mean, I was so nervous. So I sat down. She had already had a chair pulled up, waiting on me to come sit down with her. And we were talking, like doing small talk. And she was like, what's up? And I'm like, I want to ask you something. And she was like, okay. And she knew, but she was not going to make it easy. She was like, you okay? I said, thinking my mouth was dry. My hands were sweaty. I mean, because for me, her and her mom are very, very close. And so it's old school. I didn't know her dad at the time. He wasn't living in Tallahassee. So I would have gone to her dad the right way. I know today's time they don't do all that now. Most of them don't. I believed in getting permission. And so I was like, I want to know if I could get your permission to propose to your daughter. I was. And she'll tell you. And she was like, her first question was, you have a ring? And so I showed her the ring from my Aunt Mary, which was very, very precious. And it was an heirloom and it was sentimental value. And my mother-in-law's my then girlfriend's mom says these words. She was like, baby, you may want to go get you a jewelry card, a jewelry account and get you something else. And I was like,
thank you, Mama.
Yes, ma'am. So I met Kia later that day. She gave me her blessing. I met Kia that day and I turned that ring into a promise ring.
You met me right before I got ready to go to graduation practice.
Yeah, I gave her as a promise ring because I wanted to honor what my Aunt Mary said. And so after I gave her that, right, I made like this big deal about it. I kind of gave her the ring. Kia was like, thank you. And it was like nothing, like no fireworks.
Just like thank you. Went through this. First of all, it caught me off guard. And he was like, I promise. And he was saying all this stuff. And I was like, okay, thank you. I never even thought he was going to propose to me. Like, that's how clueless I was. I was just going with the flow.
So after I gave it to her, she left to go to practice. I went right to Governor Square Mall, and I had a store called Reed's Jewelry. I went there, and I walked into the guy, and he was like, I said, sir, I'm here to get an engagement ring. And he was like, how much money you got down? So I don't have any money. I said, can I do a line of credit? And he was like, yeah. So I think I got approved for a certain amount. We started looking at rings, and I found the one because it was a 2-piece, and I'm like, okay, I need to get 2 rings in one. And so he showed me a ring. It was affordable, so I was literally making payments on the ring. But it was a ring that I knew I could propose with, that she still wears. She wears it on her right hand now, and so I got the ring. My mom happened to be in town because my Aunt Mary had died. By this point, my mom was like living as an in-house caregiver for her. She died. So I brought my mom to Tallahassee to be with me for a little bit for her grieving process. So Kia graduates. We're all excited. Her mom has this big shindig at her house. And so I knew that day I was going to propose. I told her mom, I want to propose today. Everybody's going to be here. She said, okay. So she arranged it. Now, before I get ready to propose, Tikia's dad's in town, whom I had never met to this day. And her mother apparently told her dad I was going to propose. And her dad was not having it. Felt like we was too young. He wasn't having it. And he was going to, I felt like he was going to make a disruption. And so at some point there was a verbal commotion between her mom and dad, who are not married they're not married. So her mom basically was going to make sure he did not ruin whatever I was about to do. And so at a certain point, it's like packed with family and friends. And like, I give this speech. And then I basically get down on one knee and I propose. Now, here's what I tell Tikia. If she had said no, she would have never seen me again. I promise you I was going to leave Tallahassee that day. I would have broke my lease and I would have been gone, never to be seen again. How do you recover from a no?
She just said no.
In front of everybody? No, it wasn't going to happen. It absolutely was not going to happen. And so I proposed. She said yes. I was like beyond nervous. She's gonna say no. She said yes, and that was on the 28th of April, 2001. The next day was a Sunday. We go to church. We come back from church. I go by her mom's house where she's staying. And to my amazement, in less than 24 hours, there is a wedding binder. There are wedding colors already picked out. Like this whole theme for a wedding in less than 24 hours. I made the mistake, fellas, of giving one suggestion. And I learned that day in the company of my now wife, my now mother-in-law, my own mom, my now sister-in-law. I don't have an opinion for my own wedding. They all gave me the death look. And so everything was like she had this binder.
Right.
A whole binder, like a 3-inch binder. It was a thick binder. I'm like, how did you do this in 24 hours?
Because every girl dreams of the day that she gets married.
Okay.
But let me back up really quick. So a key point, a key nugget, I would say, for couples, when you're first starting out, ladies, he does not need to go get you 4, 5, 6 carats
Talk to him.
of a ring.
Talk to him.
Because you have to grow from something.
Yeah.
So stop. And I think sometimes guys stress so much about it's got to be a certain carat weight or it's got to look a certain way. You're putting unnecessary stress on them. And how dare me go pick out a ring and say, this is what I want you to give me? Because you rob him of the surprise of trying to spoil you, his future wife, into, oh, I got to do this, because if I don't have this, she's going to say no. It's the wedding, the marriage is bigger than the ring.
Well, that's good. I like that. That was good. Yeah, because there was a lot of pressure. And my mother-in-law didn't put any pressure on me at all. So I want to be very clear about that. But I felt a pressure to get the perfect ring, right? Because it needs to be, I wanted to make sure it was something that she wanted to wear every day for the rest of our lives. And I wasn't thinking at the time that I was going to upgrade at some point. None of that was on my mind, right? Because we're still young, right? And so I need to get something. My mind was get something beautiful but affordable. That was the mindset. And Tikia is the type of person where it doesn't take a lot, right? Like one of our early Valentines, I wrote her a poem. Remember it was titled
Heavenly Sent, Earthly Meant. I still have it.
Like I didn't have any money, right? So I said, I'm gonna use my words. I wrote her a poem, and I remember giving her roses one time. She had rose petals for years, right? Like that was teddy bears.
That point, you would have thought he gave me $1 million.
Again,
you did.
Yeah. But my point of all that is, I didn't have the money, right? But I knew that she appreciated the sincerity, and she would appreciate just the genuineness of it all. And so instead of me spending a lot of money I didn't have, I used what I knew, right? I just used my word. I was very vulnerable, and we were blessed to build.
Yeah, and especially when you're first beginning. Like if you're both working with stable jobs, that's something different, and you're more established. But when you're not so much established and you're in an apartment and you're renting and you're trying to, don't put that unnecessary stress on and strain on him. It's not worth it.
So I asked you earlier if you saw this, that initial picture. One of the other pictures in our intro is our wedding picture, right? Where we just look like two little kids. And just very, very innocent. We both had gaps in our teeth still, right? This is before the
no longer
the braces and things of that nature. Right. We were just madly in love. Yeah. Had an amazing date. But people need to understand, like, our wedding party was huge. Because Kia has so many people that she wanted a wedding. And so I had to find guys to match. Right. We had a wedding guest, I think, of like 300 people. We had a wedding. I had 22 dudes with tuxedos. Right. Because she had this vision. And thank the Lord, right, came to pass. We paid for our own wedding, right, through payments, a period of time. Shout out to Mary Grayson, who was our wedding coordinator. We love you. Like, it was amazing. But we look at that wedding picture, right? November 16th, 2002, right? We get married. What do you think about when you think back on that day?
Oh my God, there's so many thoughts. Like, this is really happening.
Wow.
Like, I'm really saying I do for the rest of my life, because it's a covenant, right? Yeah, like, this is really happening. Like, The quiet girl who thought she would never get married is getting ready to walk down the aisle.
Ooh, I like that. So I need you should elaborate on what the quiet girl, what that means. There's a story behind that.
The quiet girl, the introvert Tikia. I am an introvert for sometimes being forced to be an extrovert. Quiet Tikia was quiet because of I guess we use the term bullying now. Bullying in high school, in grade school, in middle school. Um, Feeling less than because I didn't have what others had.
Okay.
Feeling less than because I had a voice, but I didn't know how to use my voice.
Well, that's good too. Come on, man, I'm dropping it. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So what I think about that wedding night, right? My brother and my god brother, my brother Carlos, my god brother Marquette was in town. So I didn't do a bachelor's party, right? None of that. So they were hanging out at our townhouse that we had. That I moved to the townhouse before we got married. We're all hanging out there. My cousins in town. Everybody was in a wedding. We were hanging out. And at one point, I walked away from everybody, went upstairs to the room. People don't know. So we had a 2-bedroom townhouse, upstairs, downstairs. Both rooms were upstairs. We had furniture already in it. I refused to sleep in the master bedroom until we got married. So I slept in the guest room like for I think 2.5 months. But the night for our wedding, I was in the master bedroom, like laying on the floor. My brother comes upstairs looking for me. He finds me in there. I'm just kind of sitting in the room, quiet. Then my god brother later comes up, and so the three of us are in the room. The lights were kind of dim, and I think my brother probably told the story. I think the weight of what's about to happen was kind of settling on me. So I was sitting there, and I remember saying to my brother and my god brother, I remember one of them asked me like, "Are you okay?" And I said, I don't know. They were, what do you mean? I said, I don't want to mess this up. Right? Because growing up, my grandparents, my maternal grandparents were the only one I really saw with a successful marriage. And so I didn't want to continue the journey of messed up marriages, things of that nature. And so the weight of it all was settling in. To me, we weren't too young. I knew who I wanted to marry. I did not question that she was my wife. But it was just the weight of it all. And I also struggled at that point because I was trying to be this perfect Christian, this perfect minister, right? I was worried about people's opinions and their perceptions. And so all of those things mattered to me. I'm free from all that now, thank the Lord. But I struggled with all of that. And so, but for me, my main point was I knew when I woke up the next day, my life was going to forever be changed. I knew that. And so I think it was starting to settle on me. And nobody said anything stupid like, man, you will have the ball and chain. None of that was going. Everybody was encouraging. I just started feeling, the more I thought about it, I started feeling what it felt like, right? Because it was a 1.5 years of an engagement. And now you're on the evening before. So the three of us sat in a room talking. And at one point, I think all three of us got quiet. And because at that point, none of us were married. We kind of just sat in the room quietly. And, I think at some point I got to a point of peace. Like I never thought about running off, but it was just like, man, this is big. And I remember in that conversation, I remember thinking, I don't even know who to call to even like get words of encouragement from a family perspective. And I remember Danny Whitfield gave me some of the best advice I've ever had in life, where he said, two people gave me great advice. One was Pop Whitfield, where he said to me, he said, Godson, forget about what everybody else says. Then he also said, don't start nothing you can't continue. He's like, listen, if your budget allows you to be here, then do that until you can do this. Don't start here because you can't maintain at that level. And then Brian Yablonsky, who was a senior executive where I work, he said, Darrick, there are 3 parts to every man. There's a single man, a married man, and a married man with children. He said, do all you can to maximize your time as being a married man before you start bringing in children. Enjoy your wife, travel, all those type of things. And that was great advice. And so those 2 things really became words of encouragement that evening before. Woke up that next morning, everything was moving really fast. But I was excited because, again, I had no doubt, right? And I want to give shout out to my godmom again, Judy Smith, because what God told her in prayer was manifested. And so this year we will celebrate 23 years of marriage in November. This month will be 25 years we've been together. Wow. And I was in ministry the entire time.
My God.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we wrap this episode, I want to leave out with a question I want to ask you. And so I think the next photo is like us at the reception during the lead, right? And then every picture is in order,
Yes,
on purpose, right? In a progression, in that regard. And so the question I want to leave this first episode with is going back to between the wedding picture and the reception picture, right? Because the wedding picture, both of those pictures, the wedding picture and the reception picture, we're married now. So if Tikia today, I talked to Tikia on that wedding day, what would she tell her?
You are worth it.
Wow.
Like, you deserve everything that's happening to you. I think that's what I would tell that Tikia, that Tikia was still nervous and timid and fearful of what if in the future.
Wow.
But, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what I was
gonna ask you,
what I probably would say, I thought about this before. I think what I would tell the Darrick of that evening is never forget you're marrying your best friend.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Right. Because it's been a roller coaster ride, right? It's been a great ride and a fun ride. Right. I said this to somebody in a recent conversation that I think is a good wrap up. Just as our parents age and our children are getting older and our son's now in college, right? Tikia in 4 years will be in college. So someone, I was like, the challenges of life are not as hard as they look when you marry the right person.
Sure.
Right? Like, it's because you're not warring with them while you're also going through other situations. You're locked in together. And so I am grateful that the Lord has allowed us to have this journey together, right? Where people have told us it wouldn't work.
Yep.
And their plan didn't work.
Yep. I'm glad it didn't.
Glad it didn't either. So I'm Darrick.
I'm Tikia.
Thank you for being a part of our first episode of Just the Two of Us, where we plan on just having a moment of laughter, of fun, talking about our story, but also talking about things that are going on. And through our show, we'll give words of encouragement and excitement. We'll also try to challenge you, right? We believe God, and the Bible says in Hebrews 13:4 that marriage is honorable in all, and the bed is undefiled. And so it is our words to say to you, marriage still matters. It's the two of us riding this ride together. God bless.
Thank you.